But what happens to human beings? Sometimes we take it too far. There's one thing to say, this person is an amazing, may Allah have mercy on them, may Allah accept them. But then sometimes we take it another step. This person can actually help your du'as get answered. This person can actually answer your du'as. Actually, you don't need to make dua to Allah. Just go and ask this person. It happens over time. This is the story of Nuh alayhi salam as well. As-salihin, al-ghulu fi as-salihin, to go overboard when it comes to righteous people, to worship them, to start to worship them. This is why the Prophet says to us, "La tutruni, do not praise me, kama atrati nasara ibn Maryam," just like the Christians praised Isa ibn Maryam. Because what happened over time, they went so overboard. Julius Caesar, famous Roman Empire, from the famous emperor of Rome, it's around the time of Julius Caesar that this doctrine, this belief begins to become part of Christianity. Hundreds of years after Isa alayhi salam, that God has a son and this son died for our sins, hundreds of years later. But why is that the case? Because the Greeks, the Romans already believed in that beforehand, before Isa alayhi salam, before Christianity came to them. They already believed that God has a wife and a son and all of these family members. So they just did a lift and a shift. Old habits die hard. It's hard to change. So wherever the deen of Isa alayhi salam went, the people of that area twisted it to suit their previous religion. They invented things into it. They inserted things into it until the deen became something that would not be recognized by any muwahhid, by anybody who worships Allah. And this is the way in which Christianity initially was a deen of Allah, and now it became a form of paganism. This Christmas that we see around us, this tree, and the Santa Claus, all of these, I'll let you all read afterwards, these are all pagan ideas. These were all borrowed from the Vikings who worshipped many gods. This is not from Isa alayhi salam's deen, not in the Bible, not in the Old Testament, not in the New Testament. This is what happens to all religion that comes from Allah. If you let the shaitan do his dirty work, eventually me and you and our children will fall into the same hole. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ سَنَنَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. You are going to follow the footsteps of those before you, the Jews and Christians. شِبْرًا بِشِبْرٍ, a handspan by a handspan, وَذِرَاعًا بِذِرَاعٍ, an arm span by an arm span. حَتَّى إِذَا دَخَلَ جُحْرَ ضَبٍّ دَخَلْتُمُوهُ, so that if they fell into a lizard hole, you'd fall in with them. You're following in their footsteps. Make sure you climb out of the hole. Today, many will argue, we don't live in a Christian country anymore. 60 to 70% of people in the UK do not believe in a God. They don't believe in God. Most of the churches are empty. I have spoken to some of the archbishops, the chief, let's say imams of the churches across the country. And they have asked me advice, how can we bring our youth back to the church? Your masajid are filled with young people. How can we do that? We don't know how to do that. This is something to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many churches are being sold to be converted into gyms, to be converted into masjids, to be converted into shopping centers? Why? We live in a society, people don't believe in God. The next generation should not be afraid of Christianity entering the household. No. We should be afraid of atheism entering the household. That's what we should be afraid of. Because we are not in a world now, in Europe, we are not in a religious Europe anymore. We are in a Europe which does not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are in a Europe, they are not even Christians anymore. And so what we need to do is give our children and ourselves the tools to discuss these questions with them. They are going to ask questions. Because they're going to learn things in RE, religious education, in GCSE. They're going to learn things from their friends and from their teachers. They're going to learn in school that religion is old, it's outdated, it doesn't apply today, it's fairy tales, it's nonsense. What are we going to say to protect them? This is the next plot of the shaitan that we have to stand firm against. Be prepared. Allah promised us, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. Shaitan is your greatest enemy. But you know why we are in one of the most scary times that any Muslim has ever seen? Because before, the shaitan would never ask you to disbelieve in Allah straight away. But today, in a world where nobody believes in God, he now has the audacity, he has the arrogance to delude us and our children into going straight into kufr. Wal-'iyadhu billah. And so this is why and how we need to stay awake and stay alert. And there's two ways to fight the shaitan. And the first way, reverse of his first technique, to stay close to the book of Allah. فَاسْتَمْسِكْ بِالَّذِي أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ. And when we are going to do that for our children and ourselves, it does not mean just recitation, at-tilawa. No. We have to get them to understand what is inside the book of Allah. Any child who reaches the age of 15 should know the meaning of Juz Amma. This should be a goal for every parent. Write it on the wall, put it in a poster. When my child reaches 14, 15, they should know the meanings of Juz Amma. They should know the stories of the prophets. They should love the Sahaba. They should know the stories. They should know the story of Umar ibn Khattab more than they can tell me about Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo and who's the latest person on the roster of Manchester City. They should know those personalities. Otherwise they lose their identity. Otherwise they lose their belief in Allah. Otherwise they lose their closeness to the Kitab of Allah, the Quran. They need to know the meanings. This is the first way. The second way, how do we deal with society and the pressures of society? We need to strengthen our identity. We need to get used to being brave enough to be different. We can dress the same as those around us. As long as we cover our awrah and we are not, there's no mukhalafa shar'iyya, we're not wearing anything haram, we can dress in a trousers and a shirt, and that is perfectly permissible. But we have to know how to draw the line. And we have to show our kids how to draw the line. And we have to make them confident in what they believe in. And the only way to do that is for them to know why they believe what they believe. Surah Al-Ikhlas, it tells you why we believe in one Allah. Surah Al-Ghashiyah tells you why we believe in God in the first place. Surah Al-Duha tells you why the Prophet Muhammad could have only been a prophet, not a fake, not a liar, not anybody else. These small surahs, don't underestimating. Abu al-Aliya rahimahullah used to say, if somebody called a surah of the Quran small, he used to say, لا تستصغر سورة من كتاب الله. Never say a surah of the Quran is small. بل أنت أصغر, you are smaller than him. These small surahs contain a lot of knowledge and understanding that if we were to understand it and give it to the next generation, it would be enough to protect them from everything that's coming around them. The last advice for protection from the shaitan is to recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas. Because the shaitan and envy and all of these things that we know about, it can affect us and can affect our families. And the Prophet ﷺ, when these two surahs were revealed, he said, I don't know anything else that can protect you better than these two surahs. But do not just recite them. Know what you are saying.